Good day, folks. Today we're going to be taking a look at and testing out some ND filters for the Autel Evo 2. These ND filters are for the 8K camera and they're by Freewell gear. They also sell a set for the 6K camera depending on which drone you have. So let's just jump right in and take a closer look. So Freewell Gear sent these ND filters along to me to test out. They also sent me a version for the 6K. Now I don't have the 6K camera yet. I do have one on pre-order. Once it arrives, I will definitely be testing out the 6K as well. Now if you're not familiar with Freewell Gear, basically they make ND filters and a few other accessories for drones, action cameras, and different things like that. They make an excellent quality ND filter, and I don't think it's going to be any different for the Autel Evo. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail what ND filters are for and why to use them, but just in a nutshell for those who are maybe new to drones and ND filters, when filming anything with movement, it's good to have a little bit of motion blur in your shot. It's a little bit more appealing and looks nicer to the eye. In order to achieve the proper amount of motion blur, there's a little rule you can follow, and it's called the 180-degree rule. And basically what you do is you set your shutter speed to that double of your frame rate. So if you're filming at 30 frames per second, you're going to set your shutter speed to 1/60. At those settings, when you film, you're going to have a nice amount of motion blur in your shots. Now the problem is when you set your shutter speed to 1/60th of a second, it lets a lot of light into the sensor, so your images are all going to be overexposed. If you take a quick look at this example here, I have all the settings in auto, and everything is nicely exposed. As soon as I go to try and follow the 180-degree rule and I set my shutter speed to 1/60, you can see everything is blown out and way overexposed. So that's where ND filters come in. Basically, it's just a piece of dark glass, a pair of sunglasses that limits the amount of light that can enter into the camera. Now, ND filters come in different values depending on how bright the day is. Sometimes it's trial and error. You might start with an ND16 and realize that it's still a little too overexposed, and you might move up to an ND32. The more you use ND filters, the more you know the values, and usually you can get it right on the first try. So Freewell is selling this set here. This is called the All Day Pack. And basically we have 3 ND filters that are straight up ND filters. We have an ND4, ND8, and ND16. We also have a circular polarizer. So if you just want a polarizing effect. Down here in the bottom row, we actually have ND filters of higher values, but they also have built-in polarizers. So you can have an ND8 with polarizer, ND16 with polarizer, ND32 with polarizer, and ND64 with polarizer. Polarization helps cut back glare from reflective surfaces and can make for nicer content. Now I'm recording this segment of the video after I've already been out and tested the ND filters, and I was very pleased with them. Of course, I wasn't really expecting anything different from Freewell. But one problem that I did find is that these ND filters are actually very tricky to get on the drone. I'm just going to flip the drone over here so we can take a look. You can see here that the camera has this cover over the lens. And basically that's just a protective lens cover. And in order to put the ND filters on, we have to take it off. It's a very small lens, so it's hard to get a good grip on. Although it does have some texture there on the very outside of the ring, the rest of it's very smooth and it's hard to get a grip on it. And especially the first time you go to take it off, it's on there fairly tight. And not only that, there's a lot of threads on it, so you got to spin it quite a bit to get it off. Now, I'm surprised that Autel did design it that way. I think they could have come up with maybe a better design to have that lens removed. Not everybody uses ND filters when they film, but for most people, if you're a drone cinematographer, you're using ND filters. So Autel should have known that and maybe made a system that was a little bit easier to change out. So that's the only gripe I do have about it, but that has nothing to do with Freewell. That's more on the design of the Autel Evo. So all you do is take the appropriate ND filter, and again, you just have to line it up. And this is the other tricky part. Getting it back on, lining those little tiny threads up can be a little tricky. Oh, there we go there. So it's something I really don't like about this setup, because when you're out in the field, you don't want to be fumbling around with your ND filters. It increases the chance that you could drop and lose it, get dust and particles and fingerprints on the inside and the outside of the lens. But it is what it is, and it does work. You just have to use a little bit of patience. So let's go ahead and take a look at some footage shot with an ND filter installed. The day was kind of medium brightness when I was filming this, so I used an ND16. Now this video is more just to demonstrate the clarity of the glass, the quality of the glass. I'm not really getting in close to things at high speed to demonstrate motion blur. So as you can see there, the quality of the glass is quite good. Freewell gear does make an excellent ND filter. So as mentioned, you can buy this all day pack. I believe it's $129. But if you prefer, you can also purchase just individual filters. If you only need an ND16 and an ND32, you can actually go to the Freewell Gear website and just purchase single filters. And that's kind of a nice touch. That way you're not wasting money on filters that you may never use. And before I go, I also want to mention that I'm now on Patreon. So if you do want to support me, you can do so there. Just head over to patreon.com and search for Air Photography. I'll also include a link to it down below in the description of this video. Well, folks, that's basically it for my video. Hopefully you enjoyed it and got some value out of it. Give it a thumbs up if you did. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. And we'll see you in the next one.